The small spaceship cut through the orange sky of planet KX-219. Inside, Da-ho Kim checked his maps and sighed. This was his fourth day flying over the strange forests of this uncharted world, and he was getting tired. Just one more sector to scan, he said to himself, tapping at the glowing control panel. Da-ho was 35 years old, with short black hair and strong hands that had fixed many broken engines. He worked for the Earth Exploration Corps as a scout. His job was simple: find new planets where humans might live someday. KX-219 looked promising. It had water, plants, and air that humans could breathe. But so far, he had seen no signs of intelligent life. The ship's computer beeped. Warning: unknown energy signature detected. Da-ho sat up straight. This was new. He pressed a button to get more information when suddenly all the lights in his ship flickered. What's happening? He muttered, fingers flying across the controls. The ship's engine made a terrible grinding noise. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. The computer's voice became garbled. Sci system failure. An engine shutdown in progress. No, 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 Da-ho shouted as the ship began to fall. He grabbed the manual controls and fought to keep the ship level. The ground was coming up fast. Trees rushed past his view screen as the ship dropped through the canopy. Branches snapped against the hull with loud cracks. With a final push of skill, Da-ho managed to aim for a small clearing. The ship hit the ground hard, skidding across dirt and plants before coming to a stop against a large rock. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the hissing of broken pipes and the soft ding of the emergency beacon trying to activate. Da-ho opened his eyes and checked himself for injuries. A cut on his forehead dripped blood, and his right arm hurt, but nothing seemed broken. "Computer, damage report," he called out. The computer's voice came back weak and broken. "In-engines offline. Comm communications damage. Life support at 65%. Distress signal not transmitting." Da-ho hit his fist against the control panel in frustration. This was bad. The mothership orbiting KX-219 would not know he had crashed. They wouldn't come looking for him until his scheduled check-in time tomorrow. He gathered his emergency kit, which included a medical scanner, food rations, a water purifier, and a pulse rifle. Standard equipment for scouts who might find themselves in dangerous situations. He had never needed to use the rifle before. Most planets he explored were empty of dangerous life forms. After cleaning the cut on his head, Da-ho stepped out of the damaged ship to assess the situation better. The air was warm and smelled like wet soil and strange plants. His boots sank slightly into the soft ground as he walked around the ship. The damage was worse than he had feared. The engine compartment was crushed, and sparks occasionally shot out from exposed wires. "I could maybe fix the communications system," he muttered to himself. "If I can contact the mothership, they can send a rescue shuttle." He was about to climb back into the ship when he heard something that made him freeze. A high-pitched sound echoed through the forest. It was unlike anything he had heard on this planet so far. Not an animal call or the wind in the trees. It was a scream. A terrified scream that, while not human, was unmistakably from a thinking being in great distress. Da-ho checked his handheld scanner. The sound came from about half a kilometer to the east. He hesitated, knowing the protocol for first contact situations. Scouts were supposed to observe but not interfere with native life forms. But that scream, it sounded like someone was being hurt badly. After a moment's thought, he made his decision. He couldn't ignore someone in danger, even if they weren't human. He grabbed his pulse rifle, secured his emergency kit to his belt, and headed toward the source of the screams. The forest was dense, with strange purple-leafed trees that grew close together. Vines hung down, making it hard to walk quickly. Small flying creatures that looked like a cross between birds and lizards scattered as he pushed through the undergrowth. The screams continued, growing more desperate. Da-ho moved faster, sometimes having to cut through thick plants with his utility knife. His heart raced. What would he find? Who was screaming? And who or what was making them scream? After 20 minutes of difficult travel, Daho reached the edge of another clearing. He crouched behind a thick bush and peered through the leaves. What he saw made his blood run cold. In the center of the clearing was a large flat stone. Tied to this stone was a creature unlike any Daho had seen before. It had blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Its body was slender, with 4 limbs like a human, but its head was slightly larger, with no visible ears and large, silver eyes that were wide with terror. Around the stone stood 7 reptilian beings. They walked on 2 legs and had arms with clawed hands, but their bodies were covered in scales of various earth tones, browns, greens, and grays. They wore simple clothing made from what looked like animal hides, and they had painted strange symbols on their scales. The largest of the reptilians held a long metal rod. One end glowed orange from heat. The blue creature screamed again as the hot rod was brought closer to its skin. Daho fumbled with his universal translator, a device all scouts carried to help understand alien languages. He adjusted it to pick up the sounds the reptilians were making, hisses, clicks, and guttural noises. After a moment, broken translations began to appear on the small screen. Hunger feast. Sky fallen one. Good meat. Honor to the tribe. With growing horror, Daho realized what he was witnessing. The tribal reptilians were preparing to cook the blue-skinned being. And from the way the translator interpreted their speech, the blue one was not of their kind, perhaps another crash survivor like himself. Daho knew he should report back to his ship and wait for rescue. That would be the safe thing to do, the smart thing. But as the hot metal rod touched the blue being's skin and another scream pierced the air, he knew he couldn't wait. He checked his pulse rifle's charge. Full. He took a deep breath. The Earth Exploration Corps had strict rules about interfering with alien cultures, but there were exceptions. Preventing clear atrocities was one of them. The reptilians continued their ritual, dancing around the stone. One of them brought out what looked like crude cutting tools. The blue being struggled against its bonds, silver eyes darting around in panic. Those eyes suddenly locked with Daho's across the clearing. For a moment, time seemed to stop. He saw intelligence there, understanding, and a desperate plea for help. Daho stepped out from his hiding place, rifle raised. "Stop," he shouted, though he knew they wouldn't understand his language. The reptilians turned as one, hissing in surprise at the appearance of this new creature. The one with the hot rod stepped forward, making threatening gestures and sounds. Daho's translator struggled to convert his words, but he tried anyway. "Let that person go. I mean no harm, but I won't let you hurt them." The large reptilian leader barked orders to the others. 3 of them moved toward Daho, crude spears in hand. Their intent was clear. Daho aimed his rifle at the ground in front of them and fired a warning shot. The energy pulse hit the dirt, sending up a spray of soil and leaving a small smoking crater. The reptilians jumped back, hissing and clicking rapidly. The leader raised its arms, making what appeared to be signs of power or magic to counter this strange thunder weapon. Daho stood his ground, hoping he wouldn't have to actually shoot any of them. He took another step forward. "Last warning," he said firmly. "Let that person go." The blue being on the stone watched with wide silver eyes as human and reptilians faced off in the clearing. The fate of 3 different species hung in the balance as the orange sun of KX 219 began to sink toward the horizon. The reptilian leader hissed loudly and pointed a clawed finger at Daho. The other tribal aliens moved back, forming a half circle. They were afraid of his weapon, but not ready to give up their prey. Daho kept his pulse rifle steady. His heart beat fast, but his hands were calm. Years of training had prepared him for dangerous situations, though he never expected to use those skills to save an alien from being cooked. "I don't want to hurt any of you," Daho said, taking another step forward, "but I will not let you harm that person." The leader made a series of clicking sounds. two of the reptilians moved to the sides, trying to circle around Dao. He turned slightly, keeping them all in view. The blue alien on the stone watched with wide silver eyes, hope beginning to replace the fear. Suddenly, the leader raised a wooden staff decorated with bones and let out a loud battle cry. 3 reptilians charged at Dao at once. Dao fired a shot at the ground in front of the first attacker. The energy pulse exploded, throwing dirt into the air. The reptilian fell back with a shriek, but the other 2 kept coming. He dodged a spear thrust from the second attacker and swung the butt of his rifle, hitting the reptilian in the chest. It stumbled back, hissing in pain. The third one jumped at him, claws extended. Dao dropped to one knee and fired again, this time hitting a tree behind the reptilians. The trunk exploded in a shower of splinters. The display of power was enough. The reptilians backed away, making nervous sounds to each other. Even their leader seemed unsure now. Dao used this moment to move closer to the stone where the blue alien was tied. He kept his rifle pointed at the reptilians. "I'm going to free you," he said to the blue alien, though he wasn't sure if they could understand him. The leader of the reptilians suddenly let out a long, complicated series of sounds. Daho's translator picked up fragments. Sky weapon, powerful spirit, bad luck, return another day. The leader made a sweeping gesture with its staff. The other reptilians began to back away toward the edge of the clearing. They seemed angry but also afraid. One by one, they disappeared into the forest, until only the leader remained. The leader fixed Dao with yellow, slitted eyes and made one final statement that the translator roughly captured. "This not over. Tribe will return. Many more warriors." Then the leader too backed into the forest and was gone. Dao quickly moved to the stone. Up close, he could see that the blue alien was even more different from humans than he first thought. Its skin wasn't just blue, but had faint patterns that seemed to shift with its breathing. Its fingers were longer than human fingers, with an extra joint. And those silver eyes had no pupils, just swirling metallic pools that somehow conveyed emotion. The alien was tied with rough vines that cut into its wrists and ankles. Dao pulled out his utility knife and carefully cut the bonds. "Are you hurt?" he asked, not expecting an answer. To his surprise, the blue alien spoke in a soft, musical voice. "Yes, pain, but alive." The words were simple but clear. Dao stared in amazement. "You speak my language." The alien touched a small device attached to its neck, something like Daho's translator, but more advanced. "Learn quick. Your words. Simple." The alien sat up slowly, rubbing its wrists where the vines had left deep marks. "Thank you. Save me." "You're welcome," Dao said, still surprised by this turn of events. "My name is Dao. I'm a human from planet Earth." The alien touched its chest with long fingers. "Jisoo. I am Jisoo. From Lumen people." A twig snapped in the forest. Dao spun around, rifle ready, but saw nothing. "We should go," he said. "Those reptilians might come back with more warriors." Jisoo nodded, understanding the danger. "Yes. Go. They eat outsiders. Part of religion." Dao helped Jisoo stand. The alien was about his height but much lighter, almost delicate in build. Jisoo winced in pain. There were burns on one arm where the hot rod had touched. "I have medical supplies at my ship," Dao said. "Can you walk?" "Yes. Walk." Jisoo took a few unsteady steps. "Ship, you crashed too." "Too?" Dao asked as they moved toward the edge of the clearing. "You crashed on this planet as well." Jisoo nodded. "Small ship. Study planets. Engine fail. 3 days ago." As they pushed into the forest, heading back toward Daho's crash site, Jisoo explained more about her situation. Her translator device continued to improve its understanding of human language, making communication easier. "I am scientist. Study life on planets. My ship very small. Research only. Main ship in orbit, like yours. But communication broken in crash. Same as me, Daho said, helping Jisoo over a fallen tree. My communication system is damaged. I can't contact my mothership. They moved carefully through the dense forest. Daho kept his rifle ready, watching for any sign of the reptilians. The sun was getting lower, casting long shadows through the trees. How did those reptilians catch you? Daho asked. Jisoo's silver eyes darkened, the swirling patterns becoming slower. Sleep in ship. They find me. Drag away. 3 days, they keep me. Today, decide to eat. I'm sorry that happened to you. Daho said, on my planet, we have strict rules about respecting other intelligent life forms. Krill not care, Jisoo said. Krill is their name. Very primitive. Think all different beings are food or enemies. After walking for nearly an hour, they reached Daho's crash site. His ship lay where he had left it, half buried in dirt, with parts of the hull dented and torn. Come inside, he said. It's safer than being out in the open. Inside the ship, Daho helped Jisoo sit on his bunk while he found the medical kit. The alien looked around with interest at the human technology. Similar to Lumen ships, Jisoo commented, but different controls. Daho opened the medical kit and took out a tube of burn ointment. This might feel strange, but it will help with the burns. As he applied the medicine to Jisoo's blue skin, he asked, you said you're from the Lumen people. I've never heard of your species. Where is your homeworld? Jisoo's expression changed in a way Daho couldn't quite read. Far. Many light years. Part of Stellar Confederation. Confederation. You mean there are many different intelligent species working together? Jisoo nodded. Many. Hundreds. Trading. Learning. Exploring. She paused, then added, humans not invited yet. Daho stopped applying the medicine. You know about humans. You've been to Earth. Not me. Others. Watch Earth. Many years. Humans. Jisoo seemed to search for the right words. Humans interesting. Strong. Brave. But also. Also what? Unpredictable. Dangerous sometimes. Jisoo's silver eyes met Daho's. Confederation leaders worry humans not ready. Daho felt a mix of surprise, disappointment, and curiosity. All this time humans had been exploring space, believing they were alone, while an entire confederation of alien species had been watching them. Is that why no one has contacted us? He asked. Jisoo nodded. Wait. See if humans grow wiser. Less fighting. Before Daho could ask more questions, the ship's damaged computer suddenly came to life with a series of beeps. War warning. Multiple life forms approaching. Estimated 16 individuals. Daho rushed to the view screen. Through the trees, he could see movement. The reptilian krill were returning, and they had brought many more warriors. They're coming back, he said, checking his rifle's charge. And there are too many of them this time. Jisoo stood up, her silver eyes wide. What do we do? Daho looked around the damaged ship, thinking fast. We need to fix the communication system. It's our only hope of contacting either of our ships. He pointed to a panel of blinking lights. That's the main communication array. It's damaged, but not destroyed. I can help, Jisoo said. Lumen good with technology. Outside, they could hear the hissing calls of the krill getting closer. The tribal aliens were organizing for an attack. This time, they wouldn't be scared away so easily. Daho handed Jisoo a toolkit. We have very little time. Let's hope we can fix it before they reach us. As the sounds of the approaching krill grew louder, Daho and Jisoo worked frantically to repair the communication system, their future depending on their success. Daho and Jisoo worked quickly on the damaged communication system. Daho connected wires, while Jisoo adjusted small parts with her long, nimble fingers. Outside, The sounds of the Krill warriors grew louder. "How much time do we have?" Jisoo asked, her translator now working better. Daho glanced at the ship's scanner. "Maybe 10 minutes before they reach us." "How's the transmitter coming?" Jisoo held up a small circuit board. "This part broken. Need replacement." Daho searched through a box of spare parts. "Will this work?" He handed her a similar-looking circuit. Jisoo examined it closely, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light of the ship. "Yes. Can make it work. Need 5 minutes." A loud thump against the hull made them both jump. Through the view screen, they could see shapes moving in the forest. The Krill were testing the ship's exterior. "I don't think we have 5 minutes, Daho said. He grabbed his pulse rifle and checked the charge, still 70%. "I'll try to hold them off while you finish the repairs. If you can contact either of our ships, we have a chance." Jisoo nodded, focusing on her work. "Be careful. Krill know about your weapon now." They prepare. Daho moved to the ship's hatch. "Lock this behind me. Don't open it unless it's me or help has arrived." Before stepping outside, he looked back at Jisoo. The blue alien was working with impressive speed, her hands moving almost too fast to follow. In just a short time, Daho had come to trust this strange being from another world. They were both stranded on this dangerous planet, both trying to survive. "Good luck," he said. Jisoo looked up, her silver eyes meeting his. "Humans say that. Lumens say strong heart." She touched her chest. "Strong heart, Daho." He nodded and stepped outside. The hatch closed behind him with a click as Jisoo locked it. The forest had grown darker as the sun set. Purple leaves rustled in the wind. Somewhere nearby, a Krill warrior made a hissing call, which was answered by another. They were surrounding the ship. Daho moved to a large rock about 10 meters from the ship. It would give him some cover and a good view of the clearing. He crouched behind it, rifle ready. The first Krill warrior appeared at the edge of the clearing. This one was different from those Daho had seen before. It wore a headdress made of bones and feathers, and its body was painted with bright red symbols. Behind it, more warriors emerged from the trees. Daho counted 12, then 15, then 20. Many more than his scanner had detected. The leader raised a staff and made a series of clicking sounds. The warriors spread out, forming a circle around the ship. They carried spears, clubs, and what looked like primitive bows. Daho aimed his rifle at the ground in front of the leader and fired. The energy pulse hit the dirt, sending up a spray of soil. The warriors jumped back, but they didn't run this time. They had expected this. The leader made another sound, and 3 warriors raised their bows. They fired arrows that clattered against the ship's hull. "Just testing my response," Daho muttered to himself. The Krill were smarter than he had first thought. More warriors appeared from the trees, bringing the total to nearly 30. Some carried large bundles of dry sticks and leaves. With horror, Daho realized their plan. If they couldn't break into the ship, they would try to burn it. He had to stop them before they could start a fire. He aimed at one of the bundles of sticks and fired. The energy pulse hit the bundle, igniting it instantly. The warrior carrying it dropped it with a shriek as flames leaped up. The Krill scattered, but they didn't retreat. The leader pointed at Daho's position and made a commanding sound. 6 warriors began moving toward the rock where he was hiding. Daho fired again, hitting the ground in front of them. But the warriors simply went around the smoking crater, still advancing. He would have to aim more directly soon, something he had hoped to avoid. Inside the ship, Jisoo was making progress. She had replaced the damaged circuit and was now recalibrating the transmitter. If she could get it working, they might be able to send a distress signal to either human or lumen ships in orbit. A loud bang on the hull made her jump. The Krill were attacking the ship directly now. She worked faster, connecting the final wires. Outside, Daho was in trouble. The 6 warriors had split up, approaching his position from different angles. He fired at one, hitting the ground near its feet, but another used that moment to throw a spear. The weapon hit the rock beside Daho, missing him by centimeters. He had to move. Staying low, he ran to a fallen tree about 15 meters away. Arrows and spears followed him, one grazing his arm. He felt a sharp sting, but kept moving. From his new position, he saw warriors placing bundles around the ship. Others were using rocks to bang on the hull, looking for weak spots. They were coordinating their attack with surprising skill. "Come on, Jisoo," he whispered. "We need that transmitter working now." Inside the ship, Jisoo made the final connection. The communications panel lit up with a weak green light. "Yes," she said, quickly typing commands into the system. The ship's computer spoke in a broken voice. "Communication system online. Low power. Limited range." Jisoo programmed a distress message in both human and lumen languages, giving their coordinates and explaining the danger. She set it to broadcast on emergency channels that both species monitored. "Message sending," the computer announced. "Estimated time to reach orbit, 3 minutes." Jisoo looked at the view screen. The krill were all around the ship now. Some were piling material for fires, while others were trying to break through the hull. She couldn't see Daho anywhere. "Please be safe," she whispered. Outside, Daho was running out of options. The warriors had spotted his new hiding place and were closing in. His rifle's charge was down to 38%, enough for several more shots, but not enough to hold off 30 warriors. He saw smoke rising from one side of the ship. They had started a fire. The ship's hull was designed to withstand high temperatures during atmospheric entry, but a sustained fire might eventually damage critical systems. Daho made a decision. He needed to draw the krill away from the ship to give Jisoo more time. He fired his rifle into the air and shouted as loudly as he could. "Hey, over here." The tactic worked. Many of the warriors turned toward him, including the leader. The leader pointed its staff at Daho and made a loud command. At least 15 warriors started moving toward him. "That might have been a mistake," Daho muttered. He started backing away, moving deeper into the forest. Inside the ship, Jisoo watched anxiously as the computer counted down the transmission time. 2 minutes remaining. The smoke outside was getting thicker. A warning light flashed on the control panel. Hull temperature rising in Section 3. Jisoo knew she couldn't stay in the ship much longer. She grabbed Daho's emergency kit and a small tool that might serve as a weapon. She needed to find him and help. Just as she prepared to open the hatch, the computer made a new sound. "Incoming transmission detected." Jisoo rushed to the communications panel. A voice crackled through the speakers, first in Lumen language, then in Human Standard. "Ground team, this is EEC Mothership Horizon. We have received your distress signal. Deploying rescue shuttle. ETA 20 minutes. Please confirm your status." Jisoo pressed the transmit button. "This is Jisoo of the Lumen research vessel Starlight with human scout Daho Kim. We are under attack by native life forms. The ship is damaged. Daho is outside, in danger." The voice came back, surprised but professional. "Understood. We are coordinating with a Lumen vessel also in orbit. Rescue teams from both ships are on the way. Hold position if possible." "Please hurry," Jisoo said. In the forest, Daho was running between trees, staying just ahead of the pursuing warriors. He had led them about 100 meters from the ship, but he couldn't keep this up much longer. He stopped behind a large tree to catch his breath. The krill were spreading out, trying to surround him again. He heard their hissing calls as they communicated with each other. His handheld scanner beeped softly. Something was happening in orbit. A ship was moving, descending toward the planet. The rescue shuttle. Had Jisoo managed to get the transmitter working? New hope gave him energy. He just needed to survive for a little longer. He checked his rifle. 28% charge remaining. He would have to make every shot count. A warrior appeared suddenly to his right, spear raised. Daho fired, hitting the ground at the warrior's feet. The krill jumped back, but didn't retreat. More warriors appeared, closing in from all sides. Daho backed up against the tree, rifle moving from one target to another. The krill leader stepped forward, its yellow eyes fixed on Daho with clear hatred. Not going to be easy, is it? Daho said to himself, preparing for what might be his final stand. Then, from the direction of the ship, came a sound that made everyone freeze, a high musical call that was neither human nor krill. Jisu's voice. As Daho and the krill warriors all turned to look, a bright blue light shot up from the ship into the darkening sky, like a flare but much more intense. It exploded high above the trees, casting an eerie glow over the forest. The krill warriors made sounds of fear and wonder. The leader raised its staff toward the light, as if challenging it. In that moment of distraction, Daho saw his chance. He ran, dodging between warriors who were still staring at the strange light in the sky. Daho ran through the forest, dodging trees and jumping over roots. The blue light from Jisu's signal lit his way. Behind him, the krill warriors had recovered from their surprise and were giving chase. Their angry hisses filled the night air. He sprinted toward the ship, his lungs burning. The smoke was thicker now. Parts of the hull glowed red from the fires the krill had started. He couldn't see Jisu anywhere. "Jisu," he called out. "Where are you?" "Here." Her voice came from behind a large boulder near the ship. Daho changed direction and found Jisu crouching behind a rock. She held a small device that was still glowing blue. "What is that?" he asked between heavy breaths. "Emergency beacon from my equipment," Jisu explained. "Also made contact. Help coming. Both our ships." Daho looked at his scanner. "Yes, I saw something on my scanner. How long until they get here?" 20 minutes. Maybe less now." Daho grimaced. "We might not have that long." "The krill are coming, and they're angry." As if to confirm his words, arrows whistled through the air, striking the ground near them. The krill warriors had reached the edge of the clearing. They were spreading out, preparing for what they hoped would be a final attack. "We need better cover," Daho said. "The ship is too dangerous with those fires." Jisu pointed to a rocky outcrop about 50 meters away. "There. High ground. Defendable." They ran for the rocks, keeping low. Arrows followed them, one grazing Jisu's shoulder. She didn't make a sound, but Daho saw her wince. They reached the rocks and climbed up to a small ledge about 3 meters off the ground. It gave them a good view of the clearing and some protection from below. The krill warriors gathered at the base of the rocks, hissing and clicking. Their leader stepped forward, staff raised. "How many shots do you have left?" Jisu asked, looking at Daho's rifle. He checked the charge indicator. "About 25%. 5 or 6 good shots." Jisu reached into a pocket and pulled out a small spherical object. "Have this. From my research kit. Creates bright light, loud sound, like your grenade but no damage. Just scares." Daho took the sphere. It was surprisingly light and had a small button on one side. "When should we use it?" "Say for when they all attack at once," Jisu said. Below, the krill leader was organizing the warriors. Some were gathering at the base of the rocks, while others were circling around to the sides. They were trying to find a way up. "They're surrounding us," Daho said. "I need to slow them down." He aimed his rifle at a fallen tree where several krill were taking cover and fired. The energy pulse hit the tree, sending wood splinters flying. The warriors scattered. Jisu was looking at her own small device, similar to Daho's scanner. Ship signals getting stronger. Coming closer. Daho fired again, this time at the ground near the krill leader. The leader jumped back, but then made an angry gesture toward the rocks. Warriors on both sides began to climb. "They're coming up," Daho warned, aiming at one of the climbing warriors. He fired, hitting the rock near the Krill's hand. The warrior fell back with a shriek. But there were too many. For every warrior that retreated, 2 more took its place. Daho fired again and again, trying to slow their advance. His rifle's charge dropped to 10%, then 5%. "We're running out of time," he said, looking at Jisoo. She was quiet for a moment, her silver eyes reflecting the stars above. Then she placed a hand on Daho's arm. "Thank you," she said softly, "for saving me earlier. For fighting now. Humans are brave." "You're pretty brave yourself," Daho replied with a small smile. A loud hiss from below drew their attention. The Krill leader was standing at the base of the rocks, surrounded by at least 20 warriors. It raised its staff and let out a battle cry. All around the rocks, Krill began to climb at once. "I think this is it," Daho said, holding up Jisoo's light sphere. "Ready?" She nodded. "Push button. Count to 3. Throw." Daho pressed the button. A soft hum came from the sphere, and it began to glow. He counted to 3, then threw it down among the climbing warriors. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere exploded with light so bright, it turned night into day. A sound like 1,000 bells rang out, echoing off the rocks. The Krill warriors screamed in terror, covering their eyes and ears. Many fell from the rocks. In the sudden brightness, something caught Daho's eye. A movement in the sky. He looked up and saw a shape descending through the clouds. It was large and moving fast, its engines glowing blue against the night sky. "The rescue shuttle," he shouted, pointing up. Jisoo looked up, her face lighting with hope, but her expression quickly changed. "Not shuttle," she said. "Too big." As the ship drew closer, Daho could see she was right. This wasn't a small rescue shuttle. It was a much larger vessel with a sleek design unlike anything he had seen before. Blue lights ran along its hull, and it moved with incredible speed and silence. "Lumen ship," Jisoo said, a note of pride in her voice. "Battle cruiser." The Krill saw it too. Their cries of pain turned to sounds of fear as the massive ship hovered over the clearing. It was at least 3 times the size of Daho's scout ship and bristled with what he assumed were weapons. A bright spotlight shot down from the Lumen ship, illuminating the clearing. The Krill scattered in terror, running back into the forest. Within seconds, only the leader remained, still standing at the base of the rocks, staff raised defiantly. A second, smaller light appeared on the ship's hull. It fired something that hit the ground near the Krill leader, not an explosion, but a burst of energy that formed a glowing circle on the ground. The leader tried to move but found itself trapped inside the circle. "Containment field," Jisoo explained. "No harm, just holds." The Lumen ship moved lower, hovering just above the treetops. A section of its hull opened, and a platform began to descend. On it stood 3 figures. As they came into view, Daho saw they were similar to Jisoo, blue-skinned with silver eyes, but wearing what looked like armor. "My people," Jisoo said, her voice filled with emotion. "Come." They climbed down from the rocks and walked toward the descending platform. The 3 lumens stepped off and approached. The tallest of them, wearing more elaborate armor, spoke to Jisoo in their musical language. She responded, gesturing toward Daho several times. Finally, the tall lumen turned to Daho and spoke in perfect English. "I am Captain Ta Min of the Stellar Confederation vessel Lightbringer. You saved one of our scientists at great risk to yourself. The Confederation is grateful." Daho nodded, somewhat overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events. "I'm Daho Kim, scout for the Earth Exploration Corps. I just did what anyone would do." Ta Min's silver eyes studied him. Not anyone, and not what many species would do for a stranger. He gestured to the captive Krill leader. "This primitive has been hunting our people for generations. You faced them with only a small weapon." Before Daho could respond, a new sound filled the air. A smaller ship was descending, this one with human markings. The EEC rescue shuttle. Looks like my ride is here too, Daho said with a smile. As the human shuttle landed across the clearing, Captain Tom Min made a formal gesture, touching his forehead and then his heart. Human Daho Kim, you have shown exceptional courage and moral character. I will be reporting this incident to the Confederation Council. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our policy toward Earth. Jae-soo stepped forward and took Daho's hand in hers. Not all humans like Daho, but enough, I think. From the human shuttle, 3 EEC officers emerged in full combat gear. They stopped in surprise at the sight of the massive Lumen ship and the blue-skinned aliens. Daho waved to them. It's okay. They're friends. The senior officer approached cautiously, hand on his weapon. Scout Kim, what's going on here? Daho grinned. Sir, I'd like to introduce you to representatives of the Stellar Confederation. I think Earth is about to join a much bigger community. As humans and lumens faced each other for the first official first contact, Jisoo leaned close to Daho. Thank you, she whispered, for following screams, for caring. That's what humans do, Daho said. At our best anyway. Captain Tom Min addressed both groups. This day marks a new chapter in galactic history. A human risked his life to save one not of his kind. This shows a capacity for compassion that transcends species. Perhaps humans are ready to join us among the stars. The EEC officer looked stunned but quickly recovered. We would be honored to discuss this further. As the two groups began to talk, Daho looked at the captured Krill leader, still trapped in the energy field. What will happen to the Krill? He asked Jisoo. Study, learn, help when ready, she replied. Confederation way. No harm. Daho nodded, satisfied. That's good. They're just trying to survive, in their own way. As the night deepened on planet KX-219, 2 advanced species began a dialogue that would change the course of human history, all because one scout had chosen to follow the sound of screams through an alien forest, guided by the simple belief that suffering should be stopped, no matter who was in pain. In the distance, the Krill watched from the shadows, their primitive minds trying to understand what they were seeing. Their feast had been interrupted, but they had witnessed something far more important, the moment when humanity took its first step into a larger universe.